Hi, we will call this meeting of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee to order at 5:02 p.m. We will start with roll call.
Here.
Okay, Commissioner Beatty,
Here.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Garrison,
Here.
Commissioner Calhoun. Absent. Commissioner Anderly. Absent. Commissioner Roshto. Fantastic.
All right. Everybody received the meeting minutes, correct?
Yep.
And was there any discussion to be had about the meeting minutes?
They seem like they got it right.
Okay. Would any like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
I
Great.
second it.
Great. We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from our August meeting. All those, is there any, no, we already decided. There's no discussion. Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thanks, Travis. Okay, motion passes. I don't have an agenda.
Okay, the next up is your legislative recap.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I included in your packet some information from the League of Oregon Cities that gives a good, it kind of gives a good breakdown of the bills that are going to be most impactful to cities. I am going to join the meeting on my laptop so I can bring that up for you guys. So some of these aren't going to impact us because they are size restricted. So
You can take that to read it. I'll just read it on my phone.
I could do the same thing. Okie dokie. Okay. So when we're looking at these, some of them don't apply to us because they are related to cities above 10,000 people, which it didn't outline that in the information I included. We had to go out and look at that. So when we're looking at it, the first one is the House Bill 3395, and that went into effect June 30th. So the first part of it is residential use of commercial lands. Now this would apply to the city. I don't know how much this would apply to you because a lot of these are administrative processes. So this just that says that the city is required to approve development of housing within a commercial zone if it is affordable housing. So it meets that 60% affordability standard. So that would mean if we got a land use application for somebody who wanted to build affordable housing in one of our commercial zones, like the like riverfront commercial, then we would have to allow it. And then next, residential approval process. This basically changes how we work with LUBA, which is the Land Use Board of Appeals. It's another administrative thing that really isn't on your guys' agenda. Then we have the emergency shelter siting, which was an existing requirement. They just extended this that says that we must approve sightings of emergency shelters. We don't have to hold public hearings for approvals of shelters, which I think a lot of people expect to have a land use process. And so this says we don't have to have that kind of land use process where we're holding the public hearings for land use for these emergency shelters. This other one the next one, single exit multifamily dwellings. Relates to adopting building code, which we would be required to follow anyways, because this is going to be state building code. And then below that, planned communities. We don't have any of these. And it's really not necessarily kind of a thing that we're going to have to deal with. We also don't have anything currently in our code regulating condominiums, and so this won't impact us either. The next one, subdividing for the development of affordable housing. So as part of any subdivision, we require that they do these site improvements. So do things like put in the water lines, the sewer lines, and the roads. And sometimes based on whatever their schedule is, they might bond for these instead of doing the site improvements before building in certain sections. And this would allow us to accept as assurance rather than a bond, a award letter for public funding.
What surety does that, who issues that and how is that a surety?
So like if we're accepting an award letter for public funding, it would be from somebody like HUD,
Oh, okay, another government.
another government
Okay,
agency.
all right.
Yeah. So public funding would be either federal or state government agencies saying they will be putting this funding towards this.
Thank you.
We will be having to do some changes regarding single room occupancy. So single room occupancy applies to things like if you have a house where they share a kitchen and they rent out individual rooms. And we see this a lot on college campuses. We don't necessarily have a lot here, but we don't have anything currently in our code that defines what single room occupancy is or addresses this requirement here in our code. So we'll need to update our code to address, to put the definition of single room occupancy in there, and then add these as part of the acceptable uses in our zones that fit within the definition here.
Is that something that's already covered in the housing needs analysis where it went through like the different types of housing needed? Would this be something that would become another, like, this is a needed?
See, we for the perspective that we're looking at, like a single room occupancy does not look any different than a house. You just have a bunch of bedrooms and a single kitchen. And we have not regulated or required. So if people are renting out a room, they rent a house, like, I don't know how many of you have college students or people who are just entering they'll often have 4 or 5 kids that get together and they'll rent the house together. And that's kind of how we have viewed this before. We have not had anything that even addressed it because it wasn't really something we were looking at regulating.
If you were gonna have a meeting that addressed that, what would we know to look for? Like, would it be a meeting on public safety? Would it be a meet?
No, so this will go through, it'll go to the planning commission to update the code. So the staff will draft a code update. They'll take it to the planning commission. The planning commission will read it and they'll say yay or nay, or maybe could you add a couple words to tweak here or there. Then after that, it'll go to the city council. The city council will look at it. Both of those meetings will be public hearings, so people are invited to come from the public to address this. And then it'll be approved and entered into code. Now, because this is a requirement now from the state, there's not a whole lot that we can do to change what they're required here.
And if you do make a change, let's say I own a house with 6 bedrooms and I'm renting them out
Yep.
to people, will I have to change will I be grandfathered in or?
So the way that this is written, we are required to allow it within the urban growth boundary. So if you had a house here, you had 6 bedrooms, you're renting it out, we would be required to allow it. So
Okay.
right now we already allow it. We'd be required to allow it in the future. I don't see it changing unless suddenly someone is building a rooming house or a boarding house,
Something
that
with the
type of
intention
something with
of,
the intention of it being this kind of single room occupancy. And then we would have it written into the code, the number of units. So the number of rooms they could rent out. So right, as it's read here is up to 6 units in a single family zoned parcel. So if you had a single family house right now with 6 bedrooms in a single family zone, you could rent out those bedrooms right now, no
Wow.
problem. But also if somebody wants to come in and build a rooming house or a boarding house in one of those single family zones with up to 6 bedrooms, they could do that.
Wow. So that
What-
makes it rough for people that are homeowners. I mean, if they get people next door that somebody's bought the house and they're renting them out.
It's
that's
already
that's
already
going on.
happening.
You just don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
the only-
if you go on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, you see all the
When I
time
first
people are
moved
renting out
here, I was
rooms.
having a lot of trouble finding a place to live because I had a big dog and I looked in at least 4 or 5 different houses that was like that. You know, you walk in.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very common.
what does it mean when it said added single room occupancy to the definitions of needed housing? That's where I was connecting it with the housing needs analysis, where it kind of said the types of housing that a community needs to meet their
Yeah,
occupancy needs.
yeah, that'll be, if we were doing the housing needs analysis, that would be part of those definitions. We've already completed our housing needs analysis, so we would just be adding it to the definitions within the code. Okay, so the next one is citing duplexes. And this previously was only required for cities over 10,000. We went through our housing needs analysis and the housing strategies, and we actually did this already. So we're good here.
Did we do it because we knew it was coming, or just because it was like the right
Be-
thing to do to increase capacity within tight?
Because
boundaries?
we knew that we would be meeting that threshold. We didn't expect the threshold to be lowered, but we figured the way with the city's growth is going, we'll be meeting that threshold before we probably will be doing another housing needs analysis. So it's a really good idea for us to include this because it's going to be a requirement before too long. Affordable housing on public utility lands. I think that if PGE or one of the other public utilities wanted to build affordable housing on their lands, we'd allow it. I don't know that we have anything inside city limits, so. And the next one has to do with funding to other agencies. It's not something that we're going to be receiving. So then we get into House Bill 2984. And this is one that we had some questions about because it read a little confusing whether it would apply to us. And so this one doesn't apply. We got the information from the Department of Land Conservation and Development, which is the state agency that tells you how to do land use. And they said it applies to cities with populations of 10,000 or greater. So the commercial conversions wouldn't apply to us
Yet.
yet. It could. And what this says is that would, after we hit 10,000 people, would require cities to allow the conversion of a building from a commercial use to a residential use.
Mhm.
So, if somebody wanted to buy, say, a former mall, not that we had one, or a former grocery store, a lot of those big spaces, they're starting to convert those, or office spaces, because a lot of people are not going into the office.
Yeah, a lot of those
Yeah.
big office buildings are empty.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so they're allowing the conversion of those commercial spaces into residential spaces.
Is that
Interesting.
something that will put us into that once another census has been taken, or?
So
did they do
the population is actually based for the state on the PSU population estimates, which come out once a year. So we wouldn't necessarily be waiting until the census.
Okay.
It would be I don't know. We'll, depending on growth trends, it may or may not be sooner than the next census.
Do we know what our current, I mean, I know what the sign says, but that sign hasn't been changed for quite a while.
They'll be coming out with new numbers here soon. But the numbers that were certified for last year were 5,317, so 5,317.
That we're over 6.
Yeah, I would imagine we're probably pretty close to 6. Yeah. Okay. And then this affordable housing and emergency homelessness response package is a lot of funding for increasing things like shelter capacity and the program in which we had received a grant to do our housing needs analysis. And so it's not things that are necessarily going to be impacting us right now, but in the future, if we're looking for grants, they have more funding available. And then let's see, the public records exemption. So this allows us to exempt from public records requests things that are concerning cybersecurity. So that's pretty important. They extended the some of the economic development incentives. So right now, Estacada has an enterprise zone that's over in like the industrial campus area in which businesses can apply for a like a tax discount by adding more living wage jobs and adding more growth to their business. So there's some very specific requirements that they have to meet in order to do that. This just expands what was already there. It just kind of put the timeline out.
Is it only in that zone they get the tax discount?
It's in the enterprise zone, and I'd have to look at the exact outline of where that is on the map. Most of the people who have used it have been in the industrial campus.
Question about.
Yeah.
The lobbyists, they're all so they're representing the cities of Oregon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are a member of the League of Oregon Cities, and most cities in the state pay membership dues in order to join the League of Oregon Cities. They do things like they have lobbyists that represent cities' behalf, because a lot of these things, as you know, they come down on us and we're required to institute them. And so they speak on our behalf, and they follow these bills because we don't have time. When you're talking about tens of thousands of bills that are coming out of the legislature each year, they're there every day following the bills for us and letting us know.
And they represent the cities, but the cities, I'm sure, have a lot of different interests and sizes. And how does that give them a voice, like one voice?
So they do a few things. One is they will set out a legislative priority survey every year. The city council gets that. They go through the legislative priorities and they're like, these are what's most important to us this coming year. You know, if we're looking at, say, economic development incentives or, you know, land use criteria, whatever is on the survey, and we'll say these are the most important. And then they collect all those responses, and that becomes their goals for this year's. These are the goals that we want to work on. Then they have regular meetings that are once a week when the legislature is in session, and the council and staff are invited to attend these, and you can listen in and respond, and they'll collect your information. And they often reach out to us and ask us to, not us staff, but council and elected officials, to write letters or come and testify at these hearings in order to have our voices heard by the state.
Who makes the enterprise zones? Is it you guys at the city, or does the county, or who makes, I mean, can you extend the zone to bring in more?
So I don't know who set it up. I mean, the way that it's run right now, it's run through the county. So the county is the one who manages the enterprise zones. We don't manage, well, there is one inside city limits. We don't manage the enterprise zone. So but I'm
Okay.
not sure who set it up. I'd have to ask. That was prior to me being here, starting here. This one might impact us is the next one is a property tax exemption. This is something that the city council can adopt if they chose to, is to exempt the creation of new ADU, which is accessory dwelling units. So that's like those mother-in-law apartments that people have built on the back of their house or side of their house or above their garage, from some taxes. So people can get a tax break on those, but city council would have to adopt this exemption by resolution if they chose to.
So we should talk about that a little bit more because you're saying
Yeah.
this is something that
This is something that you could, if you wanted to suggest.
This is required to obtain approval from the affected taxing districts.
Yeah, so the way it works is if you have a tax exemption, is that your taxing districts are not just the city that receives those taxes. The fire district receives those taxes. There's a cemetery district that receives those taxes. The county receives the taxes. So in order to have this kind of tax exemption or any tax exemption, you have to reach out to the taxing districts and ask for their permission because it effectively would reduce not only the city's taxes, but also all these other taxing districts.
so it's something that potentially could add more housing,
Mm.
which may be needed within our community. It incentivizes those who are considering building these or converting single family homes into is that what it says? Multi-unit dwellings as well. Incentivizes them by giving them a tax break.
Yes,
Okay. But we'd have to know data to know whether or not that was a good idea, right? Like how big are ADUs? Like what is the need? Is it single
Does it have to
people?
have a
Is it
static-
families? Is it like,
They can't be, I've checked into this because I've got aging baby boomers as my parents,
yeah,
and they just passed a bill. Maybe it's in this list that we're going through, but I could do an ADU now that I'm outside of limits, but this applies to city limits, right?
yes,
So ADUs, as I understand, you cannot build more square footage than 900 square feet.
correct. Yes,
So essentially what this is doing is this is incentivizing within the urban growth boundary to,
what we see, and you probably don't even realize they're there, that a lot of these new housing units that are going up in the new subdivisions actually have an ADU built into it.
I saw that.
We see considerable a number of them that have that built in. And it's a small, like a mother-in-law apartment or, if
or the
you,
basement level has a kitchen and
yeah,
and
Or-
separate
or-
Does it have to have
entrance?
Its own address, like
It-
A or B or.
I don't know that having its own address is a requirement. It has to have its own facilities as far as living facilities. So it has to have its own entrance, it has to have a kitchen facility, and it has to have a bathroom facility. So
Mhm.
basically, it has to be a separate, it could be a studio, but it has to have an entrance, kitchen, and bathroom in order to be considered an ADU.
So all the people that are building them now are not getting this exemption. Can they retroactively apply for it or is it
No, it's
No,
it's
okay.
for new. Yeah,
anything after January 1st?
anything after,
Oh,
anything after.
July 1st. Okay.
When it does say, it applies to property taxes beginning July 1st. But if the city council does not adopt the resolution, it won't apply at all. So it would apply after the city council adopts the resolution or July 1st, whichever is sooner.
So this only would get discussed at city council if somebody brought it forward, or will the city council discuss this because it's relevant?
I don't know that it aligns with the council's goals for this year. So I don't know if somebody didn't bring it forward that it would be on one of their priorities.
It looks like to me that it begins on July 1st, but it could be, I mean, it's not just, newly constructed. Okay. That doesn't seem very equal. That's interesting.
Thank you for taking us down that
Yeah.
little rabbit hole.
Okay. This one, you will see the serial meetings. You'll see when I do your guys' training in April. Because we instituted the committee 101 last year, and we'll just add this a little extra on to the committee 101. It is just a training on public meeting laws, which you already had. The Oregon Ethics Commission will be creating a training. And so I'm sure they'll probably have some video that we'll watch, probably. It's not created yet. I don't know what form this training will come in. But you'll get it once it's out there, once a year. The next one is employee and volunteer privacy. I did not realize this was not a thing because we would not have disclosed this information if somebody asked. But previously, records containing in personnel files were not exempt. So somebody could have done a information request for a staff's home address and received it, which we would not have, no.
Yeah, I'd like to know her home address.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, in a town this small, you might already know it, but
Yeah.
the next is just, this would be an internal thing talking about our local procurement policies and, what the threshold is as far as costs and whether we have to go through certain different procurement methods. Nothing that's going to impact you. And then the last one is the photo radar. That's a mouthful. It allows us the use of fixed and mobile photo radar in communities. So if we wanted to purchase this, we could set it up so that they take pictures of people who are speeding and send out tickets. If that's something, I think this is probably falls more under the Traffic and Public Safety Committee's purview than yours.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless the money collected from the tickets goes towards funding accessible opportunities for people to participate in the city.
I'll be honest, tickets don't bring in a whole lot of money. You have to pay for the judge, you have to pay for the clerk, you have to pay for the officer to come if the person pleads not guilty. Really, if the ticket's $100, the city's making like maybe $10.
Yeah.
It is not a money maker for the city.
Can we all agree to just stop giving tickets because it'll save the city money?
But it is, you get the
deterrent.
carrot or the stick for people speeding. And sometimes people need the stick.
Sometimes, but there is actually a little bit of a DEI angle to that, in that sometimes those areas where photo radar is used are areas where people of specific groups live, and it can be a little bit disparaging to those groups, or placed unfairly and affects them disproportionately. So, and this is coming from a cop. I'm all for, giving people tickets when they need them, but
Yeah.
I do think that photo radar is kind of an interesting piece that if it ever did come up within the city, we should absolutely, as a DI committee, be discussing that.
I agree.
So it's
But
not.
also, to your point, it is very, very expensive. You have to have a separate municipal court, which is very expensive, and just a money suck. City of Gresham is looking at doing it, and I don't think they'll end up doing it for that very reason. It's just too expensive.
I would say that if the Traffic Public Safety Committee was going to recommend it, then we'd have to look at the budgetary impact, and it would certainly not be in this budget year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also looking at, where would you propose that these would be?
Yeah.
And looking into those things that Travis mentioned.
Right before the gas station where 211 hits 224.
Mhm. That's a bad
Because
intersection.
it's a bad intersection.
So
Okay.
Elena, are you gonna periodically bring some of these to us? Cause I'm assuming they'll have more in their magazine, right?
This was everything for this year's legislation.
Oh,
So they will go into short session. This is a short session coming up in February. So the legislators start in February. I can't remember how long short session is. Usually they go February to July, and I want to say it's half that time. So if there's bills that come out of that, we'll bring it back next year. And it probably won't be in September because it's short session. It'll probably be sooner, but if there's bills that are coming out next year, we'll bring those back. We can bring them back then.
my representative has a bill that he's trying to get through. It didn't make it through last term, but would give people on rural property the right to build a
Mhm.
second dwelling for a family member. So I'm hoping it has good support, so.
Okay, any other additional comments or questions about the legislative update?
Just thank you for walking us through that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Yeah, that was a good learning experience, I think, for us.
You're welcome.
I feel smarter. Okay, next item is the Youth Council.
Yes.
Did you put this on the agenda, Elena?
This was on your goals. I
Okay.
did print off your goals. You have. them
Yes,
in
thank
front of
you.
And we had tentatively put this as a project date in September for the youth council. My suggestion is that if we can to form a subcommittee, because it's going to be kind of a big project. I did collect some research from other cities of what they do as far as a youth council. And so if you want to take, 2 to 3 people, form a subcommittee, and then review the research, come back maybe at the next meeting or the meeting after that with some ideas of what you would like to institute, and then be able to take that proposal to the school district.
Wait, I'm sorry, please review this for me because
your microphone, so Travis can hear us.
I'm sorry, please review for me again this youth council. What was the goal of that?
I think the goal of the youth council is just to get us more engaged with the students in Estacada and the kids. The way it behaves in other cities depends on how you set it up. So in some cities, the youth council serves as a completely separate board, and they have set their own goals, like their own committee. Sometimes it's liaisons that serve on like an ad hoc committee member on different committees, or it could be that there's somebody serving as on the council itself as an ad hoc council member. So it depends on how you guys look at the research and decide this we think this will work best in Estacada. This fits, with the structure that we have or with our kids or whatever. So the way it functions is what you guys need to decide. But the goal of it is to get the kids and the community more connected, especially with the way the city functions and government.
those sources of research that you said, can you make those available?
Yeah, I will. I mean, I can send them out to the entire group, but I think it's a lot unless you want to serve on the subcommittee. And that's why I was thinking, I mean, my suggestion is to form a subcommittee, but if everybody wants to just research it and then come back at the next meeting, we could certainly do that too.
Oh, I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel.
And are you thinking bigger than just DEI committee, but like more for city council potentially?
Mm-hmm.
Or depending on what the research is, it could be participating on individual committees, or it could be proposing a more formal engagement with city council.
Yeah, it could be either.
Okay,
Yeah. I certainly see value in both, whether it's seeing if we could get a student to serve on every committee, that there's value in that, or if seeing if there's some kind of, advisory board that would work with the city council, there's value in several different options. So
So we should be coming up with a subcommittee to decide on the student body subcommittee.
Or
You-
just reading the research and coming back with something to lead a discussion at our next meeting, probably, that whether or not the recommendation is to put, try to get somebody on every committee or somebody on city council or whatever.
It just sounds like there's gonna be so much information that's gotta be processed for that, and data. It's great that it's a whole meeting by itself. You
yes.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's why I would recommend a subcommittee, because I think there's going to be a lot of information and that you're probably going to want to have a whole meeting of the subcommittee to go over that information and discuss it, and then come back to the entire group, either at the next meeting or the meeting after that, and present your recommendations.
I'm interested. I'm also concerned about capacity. But I've been interested in engaging the school district, so I'll be on the subcommittee.
Can we bring in an outsider to help and be on the subcommittee?
Yes, yes.
How many, like as many people interested as, I mean, within reason of what we could handle, but is there a limit to how many non-committee members can be on a subcommittee?
No. Uh-uh.
Okay,
Yeah, because they're just basically serving as volunteers, and so we don't have any requirements as far as those subcommittee. They're just volunteers.
okay.
We do have, you cannot have more than 3 people on a subcommittee, or else it's a quorum
Right.
Yeah.
3 people from this
from
committee.
this. Yes.
Is 3 still the quorum or has that changed?
4 is a
Or is it
quorum.
Okay.
So 3 or less would not have a quorum.
And
So
that's
you could meet at-
considering like that we have one less person.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Hope you can remember.
I have a
Mhm.
question.
Yes.
So I saw in the LOC newsletter that there's a contest that the mayor can hold if I were a mayor to do
Mhm.
with the school. Has that been sent to the mayor to see if he wants to do that? Because I think it's been done before.
It has been done before. I didn't send it to him this year. I mean, I sent it to him last year. It's a lot of work for the mayor, because it requires him going out and speaking to the schools, and he just didn't have the capacity last year. I don't know if he has the capacity this year.
Does anybody else feel strongly about working to engage the youth voice?
I really think it should happen. Yeah.
Are you volunteering for the subcommittee, Denise? Yes-ish, like I am yes-ish
I want to, I
volunteering.
just don't know my schedule and it's time of day when my brain isn't working well, so I don't want to say yes and then not be able to do it. So yes, I want to if I can do it.
Okay. I have a feeling Michael might be interested. So I can reach out to Michael as
Okay.
well.
Great.
I don't have the time right now.
I know. I don't know if anybody has the time right now.
I really don't. Can't add one more thing.
Okay. Do we want to talk about survey now?
Yeah,
Okay.
which you included. Thank you in the packet.
Yes, I included it in the packet, and then I created your
QR code.
I created your online survey. Hold on.
It looks nice.
So here's the online version. This is the editing version, so it'll look a little bit different, but not a whole here. Let me preview. Okay. There we are. Your
It's
little
really nice.
your little info about what the survey is about, then the questions. And these are clickable links here, so somebody can click through to read it. That takes each one to your page.
Perfect.
And that's for every one of the committees. And all these questions are pretty much all the same, right? Have you heard about it? Participated, applied on?
Could we include something, that one, the infrastructure one, or number 4?
Mhm.
just where it says like the system plans, like what are the system plans? Because I know we had a couple of examples on a later one, and I think that's helpful for people.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna,
so like the Parks and Rec one says, such as the summer concert series in Wade Creek Park, like it's a very tangible connection for people. Maybe just that one, including what the transportation or housing.
spell. Okay, I'll go through and fix this, but. Okay, does that work? Such as transportation system plan or wastewater master plan?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's helpful because I think, you know, this is going to be an educational tool. So let's take the opportunity.
For me or help?
great.
And I don't know if, I guess when you click on the link, it could also are our pages built out enough that there's that kind of
Like, if
detail?
you click on that link, will it go to something about planning commission?
It goes to the city page.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
no, it
this
does
is,
not.
that's great. This is part of the reason why we are updating the city's website. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. It'll go to the page, hopefully.
Eventually.
We will, let's talk about your timeline. We're in the process of updating the city's website. And I'm afraid these links, that shouldn't have happened. We'll figure out what that issue is. But I'm afraid that when we get the new website, these links will be different. And so we either need to do this right now with the deadline by November 1st or October 31st, or we do it after November 1st.
Let's do it.
Okay,
Let's just do it.
okay.
I think. Does anybody else?
Yeah, I don't see why, I mean,
It's
we
fine
can't,
with me.
it's never gonna be perfect. Let's just be happy with it.
It's
Okay.
just baseline data.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and then there's, thank you. Okay, there's, I think this is worded a little bit differently just for the online survey. It's, you know, inside city limits, outside city limits, but inside zip code, other.
Mhm.
And then these are all optional. How do you receive information and would you like to receive more information? So I will say that one of the ways that you had discussed promoting this was to include it in the water bill.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be able to include the whole thing in the water bill because the next water bill coming out is going to have the newsletter in it for the city's newsletter. However, I can include a link to this survey.
One page with the QR code or the like, type in this URL.
It's going to be a blurb in the newsletter because the newsletter itself is one page and
Okay.
that's all, you know, that's what we have room for is
Okay.
the one page for the bill and then one page for the newsletter. And,
Yeah.
but I can include a blurb in the newsletter about the survey.
Do we have anything in there about like, how did you hear about this survey?
We don't have, how did you hear about the survey? We have, how do you
Get your
regularly
information. I'm just
receive your
wondering if, I mean, that would
information?
give us an idea of how many people are getting it from the water bill to kind of see the effectiveness of disseminating information that way versus.
Yeah, we can add that in there.
Demographics.
Mhm.
And as far as in the newsletter, is it possible to put something about how somebody can obtain a copy to turn in person? They
Yeah.
could get a copy from the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, I'll talk to Michelle, but I don't see that it would be an issue to have these printed and available at the library. And then obviously we'll have them printed and
Here.
available here at City Hall. And if any of you wanted to take them out to your churches, community groups, 4-H, whatever it is you do, we could have those available for us if you just let me know ahead of time so I can print them out for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've got kids' sport events, school stuff. So
what if we had some at the community center and also took cause I know I've gone to the, what do you call it? That old person's home.
Every time.
Or
Every time we forget.
Whispering Pines?
Yes, Whispering Pines.
Okay.
So they have mailboxes.
Uh-huh.
And if you take them, you know, stack of whatever it is, you can take it to the manager, they'll put it in their mailboxes.
Mhm.
I just think we should get, you know, some older people's.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I can take them over to the community center. If you know how many Whispering Pines needs and you go there regularly already, just let me know and I can print them up for you and you can.
We
hang them on
aren't
there.
collecting really any demographics on here
No,
other than where you live. And that's okay. I mean, I don't want this to get long, but I just want to make sure we're not missing an opportunity. It's just baseline data, right?
Yes.
It's okay to just start
yeah,
like this. Build
Mhm.
trust with these like short, simple surveys.
yeah, the more questions
Yeah.
you add to the survey,
Yeah.
the less likely somebody is to complete the survey.
Okay. Okay.
and I'll probably need to ask the manager because I don't know. I mean, do a lot of people there have cars to bring it down to the city and turn it in? So we might need
They
to
probably have a staffer who could
bring it down.
deliver them or,
Mhm.
or
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they might come down here and pay their water bill anyway, so.
Okay, good.
thank you, Elena, for helping this come to fruition.
You're welcome.
Look at us with some tangible like to-dos and we're producing something.
We are.
Okay, and I don't know, we will have to check in with Michael because he was working with the Arts Commission to see if there was the possibility of also creating a poster that we could put up
Mhm.
at places to advertise.
The survey,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Anything else about the survey? So are we pausing on the one pager? Because I see that's not on here and I know we weren't done with it. Because part of what we needed was our goals to.
Yeah, I thought you guys needed to collect more information before we could put it back, but if you guys wanted to talk about, it, you can discuss it as an addition to the agenda today.
Okay.
Or
I
do
don't
you
know if
wanna
there's
just-
anything to discuss, just.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have your goals. Update it and bring it back to the next. Do you want to put it on the next agenda?
Yeah, except for I didn't pay for Canva and that was on. I'll have to I don't know how much time I have to put into messing with the format of it.
I can
Um,
help you.
Okay. Thank you.
We did create a list of community groups and churches, so that's been done.
Yes.
There's nothing in the progress, though.
I haven't had a chance to update your goals.
Okay.
I just printed them off.
Yeah, we've also created a survey.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of our goals done.
And I think I did reach out to all of those committees about the possibility to collaborate on those things months ago. And I don't think I got anything back from any of them. So that's where we're at. All right. Is there anybody attending our meeting from the public who might have a comment?
There are 0 attendees online or in the room.
All right. Shall we move on to committee comments? All right, we'll start with Denise. Do you have any committee comments?
nope, I made them all during the meeting. I don't really have anything else to add that's extra. I'm glad we got it. When will it be done and going out? Do we have a date for that?
I mean, it's already created. I'll go through and double check all the links. to make sure those links are working, but then I can just publish it before the end of the week.
And the newsletter goes out.
And the newsletter goes out at the end. The newsletter goes out at the end of the month. So I have to have the newsletter done by approximately the 15th for them to add it to the bill. And then the bill is printed and mailed at the end of the month. So
Does the
people-
newsletter only go out in the water bill or is it also emailed out?
The
or-
newsletter goes out in the water bill. We don't have anything set up to email it out.
Or available on the website?
Yeah, we can put it on the website. I mean, the survey will be available on the website
Okay,
and on your social media. We can put it on your social media and the city's social media.
okay. And then we can all share. it.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, Travis, do you have any comments?
No, just real quick on the youth committee, if we don't get enough volunteers for that subcommittee, I could maybe help with that. We're all spread thin, so let me know if we don't fill all those spots.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Elena just send the research out to everyone, and then I've noted those who are potentially interested in meeting outside of the meeting,
Okay.
but. Okay. Tammy,
So I just want to thank Elena for all her hard work for us and for Aaron for taking over and leading this group. My husband and I are in our 6th year of leading a free area dental clinic, and it will be on October 8th at the Sandy Seventh Adventist Church. So last year we provided services to 135 patients. We provided extractions, fillings, cleanings, crowns, and flippers, which are up to 3 teeth that are replaced in the front of a person's mouth, like a little denture. So we're doing that again this year. Just wanted to let the community know that it does not matter who you are welcome to join us. Doors open at 7 a.m.
that's great. And the advertising for that, I see you have some little postcard size things. How else do people learn about this event?
So they can go to the Sandy Seventh Adventist Church website, or they can, that's the best place actually to find out about it, because our flyers are there. We're also going to have flyers at all kinds of places around town. I usually take them to the food bank, the post office, the library, community center. Usually have one on the window at Harvest Market, both doors. So they'll see my flyers. So yeah, and if anybody, I think, isn't my contact like information on the website at the DEI committee?
No,
Page.
we don't list individual
Oh.
commissioners' contacts. We just have the
Generic
Generic
email address.
email address.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, people can they'll see our flyers, but going to the website's the best
Okay.
option.
Is there a social media campaign also? Is it going out that way?
Yes, we're
Okay.
going to be having articles in the Mountain Times, Estacada News, Sandy Post. We also have it on our church Facebook page. Trying to think of other, but those are the main. Also goes out usually to the Estacada School District in their email system, and also through Peach Jar, which is the system that the Sandy schools use. So
Great. And you are staffed up for volunteers or?
yes,
Yeah.
oh man, we're
Okay.
overstaffed with professionals this year. It's really awesome that we have so many dentists. So yeah, we have a lot of staff already. So
Great.
yep.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yes.
Heidi, do you have anything?
Yeah. I
this is not in my capacity as a city councilor, but I thought that this would be right up the alley for the DEIC, which is a community heart and soul. It's a model for community outreach that focuses on what we all love about our town. It's a 2-year process from start to finish. Even though there's a model for this, the community decides what direction we go. So there's been, let's see, business owners, nonprofits, residents new and old, current and former city council members, faith leaders, highly respected members of our community, and youth that have started the process of seeing if this would actually be something that is worthwhile in Estacada. And we decided that we would love to have this in Estacada. So we wanted to get approval from city council so that the Orton Family Foundation, which started this community heart and soul, would see that it's tangible. And we would get a grant from them to hire a development organizer that would start events and community gatherings where we can gather stories and figure out what Estacada means to all of us. Right now, like I said, city council didn't approve it, but there are ways that we can continue this. It may be hard, but I think that we can. So we're gonna meet again in January, and I would love if anybody would like to come. I can send the information to anybody that's interested. It is on January 16th. And it'll be in the new Wade Creek Community Room there. Yeah.
Are you able to send out just information about what it is and the meeting to Elena so Elena can send it out?
Yeah.
To our whole group?
Couple questions.
Yeah.
So number one, why didn't the city council vote it? And number two, so I met the lady that's spearheading this. Is her name Anne?
Jane.
Or Jane, sorry.
Mhm.
And I think we were going to meet, but we never did. I don't remember the details, but I looked up this organization, and it seemed like to me, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but it seemed like there was a lot of similarities to DEI. Like I was questioning as I looked through it, why we would need that if we're having DEI. So that's the part I was trying to figure out, but I haven't met with her yet.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely correct. It's the same goals here, but this is not, even though we want approval by the council, we don't need it. Whereas you guys, you have to get approval, you bring all your recommendations. Once we get all the information, then we'll bring it to council and say, hey, this is what we found. And then they can do with it what they want. So it's just an outside resident driven outreach, community outreach
So
that
with a lot more capacity than we have to.
and the city.
Because there's
staff,
money behind
yes.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not taxpayers' dollars.
No.
It's grant.
Yeah, it'll be
or-
grants. Yeah.
But, and then the first question Tammy had was why the city?
I can't speak to other people's
Yeah.
decisions. They did their research and I have been involved since February. So, and it's just seemed really worthwhile to me. So, yeah. It's a broad idea. So I guess, and like you said, like it's a little confusing. So that maybe that was it, but it's nonpartisan. It's just resident driven and
But
yeah.
when I was reading it, I was wondering if there would be, and I know they have grant funds. So like, what would the grant funds go for? Like if we had grant funds, I mean, I guess we could use the
Yeah.
money, right?
Well, so if we didn't have the grants, then we'd have to rely on us as residents funding events. If we get the grant, then we can put on the events and also hire somebody to organize the events. And that could be somebody that's in the group. And the launch team that has started this it's not necessarily who's going to be continuing it. We're just gonna
Exploratory.
hopefully start it and bring in volunteers from everywhere in town and right outside town.
Isn't
Yeah.
the purpose of it though also DEI flavored?
Oh, yeah.
So would DEI and this other committee have,
We would have goals in common.
Yes.
yes, we'd have goals in common. That's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is that there
Supplementing
could
versus
be,
supplanting, or
there could be some since they're not connected, that there could
Mhm.
be some disconnect and maybe almost some what do you
Like conflicting
competing
ideas.
for
Yeah.
resources,
Yes.
or it seems like, I mean,
really.
that would that group be, I'm guessing the group would be open to and excited from what I'm hearing about actually possibly, meeting with us, or at least we could invite them to come and talk to our group about how more
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
they're all-
well, yeah, there's,
So they'd be
So-
working in conjunction with us, or I mean,
Yeah,
at
so-
what capacity would we be?
so you're an advisory committee.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of gonna be in that same fashion. So you find out all your information from all your outreach and community heart and soul. We find out what we find, we come together, bring it all to city council, and they can make decisions on what they think is best. Yeah, so it's just another way to bring everybody in. I don't think it's a competition per se.
Okay.
But yeah, I can send information to everybody. Because we have a moratorium right now. We're gonna pick it back in January, see what happens, in the little interim. And hopefully we can continue.
It's called Heart and Soul.
Yeah,
right?
community heart and.
So the
soul.
idea is just to bring a community together.
Yeah.
To help, like, and this organization is old or newish.
It's at over a decade.
Okay.
All across the country. And it's about small rural type communities. There's some in Idaho and Washington that that's the closest to us. We would be the first in Oregon.
But as a committee that has, or not a committee, as a community that has gone through a lot in the last couple of years and had opportunities to come together and also had things that separated us. I feel like our committee is working on that, but there is no way that we can really tackle. And I mean, we meet once a month and we're volunteers. And so if there was something with resources that
Mhm.
is dovetailing with our work, it seems like a no-brainer to me. But I will
Yeah.
look
So,
forward to
yeah.
seeing the information on it. And then possibly we can discuss it as a group if we want to possibly bring forward to city council and say, hey, we think this is great,
Yeah.
or we don't have to bring it to city council, but we could,
Yeah.
lend our voices
Yeah,
that
we'll
way
see
if
what
we
happens.
decided.
See what happens in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great group of people.
Okay. Thank you. I'll just say thank you, Elena. Thank you for having Evelyn. No, who was here last time?
Evelyn,
Okay. Thank you for having Evelyn here. She was great. Appreciate that we're upping our game with understanding the legislative implications in city government and how that may impact our work. It helps us be smarter and more proactive, I think. And thank you for the work on the survey. I'm really
Yeah,
excited
it looks nice.
about that. All right. Do you have anything to say? You're done? Nope. Okay. So next meeting is October 4th. Until then, this meeting is adjourned at 6:06.